What's up, y'all? I'm Music Nerd here, and in this video, we're gonna be doing a tier list of one of my favorite bands and one of the most successful rock bands in the past 40 years, The Police. Talking about their discography, their very short discography. They only made 5 studio albums and ranking them from worst to best. There are very few rock bands that never made a bad album. And The Police is one of those bands. I mean, if you look at their discography, they really did not miss. And they were only around for what, maybe 7 or 8 years before Sting went on to did his thing. And he had a successful solo career on his own. Now, of course, they've reunited over time and, they've done some one-off shows. But I think the reason why The Police has endured so much is that they made a lot of great music in a relatively short time, and a lot of their songs like Every Breath You Take, King of Pain, Don't Stand So Close to Me, Roxanne, you don't have to put out the red light. Sorry, I apologize. I just can't sing like Sting does. They're one of those bands that, in terms of like coming from that era of post-punk reggae bands, they've had a huge influence on pop music and rock music. But yeah, I'm rambling. Let's get to this tier list, starting with their first album, Outlandos de Amor, which came out in 1978. Now, The Police came out in the second wave of those British punk bands, those type of bands that were post-punk and were experimenting with different genres. And The Police was experimenting with reggae and ska music and early new wave. They're obviously a lot lighter and more poppier than their more like gothic contemporaries like Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division. The Police definitely were kind of conscious of being played on the radio. But as far as pop punk albums go, or in early new wave albums, this is a very solid record. Of course, Roxanne's the biggest hit from this, but just a lot of great songs on here. A lot of like very catchy, very energetic thing. At the time, nobody really sounded like him, and his falsetto was very unique. And especially when Roxanne became popular, it was like it really did feel like this was a new type of deal. The new wave thing was coming out, and The Police was kind of at the forefront of that. And other great songs too, like Can't Stand Losing You, Hole in My Life, Peanuts, Next to You. They're really, maybe there's a couple of bad songs like Born in the 50s. As far as debut albums go, really, The Police showed that their future was bright. So I'm going to put this in the B tier. Next album came out a year later, Regatta de Blanc. Didn't entirely break new ground. I mean, they were writing better songs. They were kind of shedding their punk edge just a little bit and leaning more towards the reggae thing. Walking on the Moon is an incredible song. Message in a Bottle, one of their most popular songs, another great song. Bring on the Night. It closes incredibly with No Time This Time. It's a band that's becoming more confident. Sting becoming a lot more confident in his vocals. The Police were really starting to cross over into the United States and really showed that they were going to become one of the bands from the 80s that was going to change the pop scene. So yeah, another solid album. Not as good as their first, slightly diminishing returns, but it's still a solid album. I'm going to put it in the B tier, maybe B minus, C plus. Next album, Zenyatta Mandata, and really this is the album that kind of broke them into the mainstream. Don't Stand So Close to Me, the do da da or something like that. Do the da da da, like that song came their first top 10 hits. They're starting to be featured on Rolling Stone, starting to sell out arenas. This album is probably my favorite of theirs. They were starting to not only create more pop songs, but they were starting to become more experimental, playing with world beat music, Middle Eastern instruments, African instruments. doing instrumental pieces. They're really kind of showing that they were more than just a punk band. They were becoming more musically complex. It's really the best of both worlds. It was really kind of like the pivot point of what they were doing earlier and what they will go on to do with their next two albums. I would say if you're trying to get into Police, really this is the album that I would say you would start with, because it shows them, kind of at their peak. So yeah, I'm gonna put this album in the A tier. Their next album, Ghost in the Machine. This album peaked at number 2 in the Billboard charts. The Police at this point were bona fide pop superstars. Every little thing she does is magic. A song that I've grown to love over the years, but it's definitely sounds very dated. The pop songs weren't really what I love about this album. The deep cuts are incredible here. Invisible Sun, just a moving piece, tackling what was going on Ireland and UK at the time. Sting at this point was becoming more worldly and more socially conscious during this era, so he was tackling, writing about the world's ills. It definitely came across in the spirits in the material world, kind of how we're living in this capitalistic society and how we're kind of losing our individuality. Stuart Copeland, very underrated drummer. His drumming is incredible in this song. Probably my favorite Police song of all time. But also you got songs like Secret Journey, Omega Man, Rehumanize Yourself, that are like upbeat types of songs. One other thing I wanted to mention with this album is that it features a lot of jazzy compositions. And, although the other band members, other than Sting, hated this kind of transition to experimental and jazzy compositions, I actually love those types of songs, and would later be a foreshadowing to Sting's solo career as he would further experiment with jazz and world beat music and genres like that. There are a couple of songs that I don't love, but the songs that are strong here are really strong. Some of the best work that they've ever made. And knowing what we know now, at this time, the sessions were, let's say, they weren't smooth. These guys weren't really getting along at the time, and Sting was kind of overpowering the band, so to say. And you can definitely hear the tensions that were arising in this band and that would carry over into their next album. So Ghost in the Machine, a classic album, and a great album cover. Love this album cover. So I'm going to put this in the B tier. Then we wrap it up with Synchronicity. Came out in 1983. This was the album that made them go from superstars to megastars, selling out stadiums. They were truly, at this time, the biggest rock band in the world. I mean, we all know the hits here. Every Breath You Take has been played on radio for what seems to be infinity. I mean, they're going to play this song till we all die and the aliens come by and take over. I mean, this song has endured. I've read that this song is so popular that Sting receives a fifth of his net worth comes from this song alone. I mean, damn. And yeah, of course, there are some songs here that don't work. If I never hear the song Mother again, I'd be a very happy man. But unfortunately, every time I listen to this album, I have to be reminded that that is probably one of the worst vocal performances I've ever heard in my life. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they put that song out, but that could have been left off the album. The Police, obviously this is the album that made everybody a Police fan at that time. At this point, they were barely speaking to each other. They all hated each other's guts. And they decided to break it off, which in retrospect, I guess, was a good move, because knowing what the 80s would become with a lot of the cheesy, new wave songs that we will get later in the decade, maybe it's good that they broke it off when they were at their peak and not be like other rock bands that just like, hey, we're just gonna like stick it out and we're just gonna rehash the old songs, in a sense, leave it while, people wanted more. Overall, it's still an incredible album. I'm gonna put it in the A tier. I would put it in the S tier if not for those couple of songs that are really bad, but It's a really great album. Check it out. It's a classic rock album. That is my tier list for The Police. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. What is your favorite Police songs, Police albums? YouTube recommends these 2 videos to check out after this one. If you enjoy the content in this channel, you want to continue to show your support, appreciate it if you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're a return subscriber, hit the notification bell to be alerted for new content. And yeah, love you guys. Until next time, peace.